Community, welcome to our Housing Creek Flood Protection Project draft DEIR public meeting. Microphones will get in. All the places. Okay. My name is Mike Potter, and I'll be your MC this evening. We are recording this meeting for anyone who couldn't participate or who wants to view it at a later time. The link to this video will be available on the project webpage and Valley Water YouTube channel shortly afterwards. For our online audience, if you would like to ask a question after the presentation, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen instead of the chat box. This becomes hard to track if we fail to read things in the chat. And staff will respond to your questions at the end of the presentation. So if something strikes you, you can put it in the Q&A and we'll get to those right away. Today, we have the opportunity to learn about this project. But we must receive tonight's meeting. Remember, we must receive your comments in writing via email or mail during the 45-day public review period. Presentation will include details of the process and where to submit the comments by August 26, 2024. So now, in the comment cards at the check-in table that you can use as well. That has the information where to send it. Today we'll have the opportunity to learn about the project that's proposed. You can ask questions and provide comments on the draft environmental impact report. Also want to announce that the Valley Water District Director and President who represent part of this project area. That's Vice Chair Richard Santos and Director Tony Estramera. Vice Chair Santos was first elected in 2000 to serve on the Valley Water's board, represent District 3. It includes portions of the city of Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Alviso, Ojitos, Berryessa, and El Mar. He is a native of Alviso and has volunteered in the community for many years, including serving as the chairman of our Alviso Library Project Fundraising Committee. Director Santos, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mike. And good to meet everybody. You hear me okay? Good. I'm Richard Santos, the Vice Chair of Santa Clara Valley Water District, and now I'm going to be here tonight. Give a little background. What's the way forward?
You have to use microphone together.
Can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yep. The folks on the line can't hear it.
Anyway,
So it's garbage.
I got elected back in 2001. Been here when I first came on. Water reason Alviso, so the house by flooding, I've been through it. My family, myself, we lost everything we owned 3 times. 56, 58, 83. As a fire captain in the San Jose Fire Department, I'm retired. With every emergency, you name it, flooding's always going to be all of. I used to work at Station 8 and 17th Street. Those are the happiest years I had. And we've been through all of them. This is a great project that's coming up. We want your input, but here's the deal. People like Tony Estramera, when I came on, reflooding. He got first report, he helped Alviso make sure that we had flooding protected for many years in the Coyote. So this is all they're doing. Yet the city, for many years, they've all permission to do all the building. They didn't supply the flood protection. So we don't own all the buildings. So they all we can, for the Congress and the Corps of Engineers Union. So it's our turn. These are the same ladies that were here in 1777. They should have been taken care of a long time ago. So it's passed to us, Director Estramera and myself. So we feel the construction is going to be started in 2025. The input is necessary, and we need flood protection. 217 was a disaster. Should have never been. It's over with. Now we got to be ready. So with that, Mike, back to you. Thank you for coming. No question.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Santos. Next, we'd like to introduce Director Tony Estramera. He represents District 6 on the Board of Directors. Director Estramera began his tenure on the board in 1996 as an appointee. He has been appointed or elected to represent this area ever since. He's an attorney who's played a leadership role in the development of Valley Water's advanced water purification plant, representing Valley Water statewide on numerous water supply and planning organizations. Welcome, Director Estramera.
Thank you, Michael. And believe me, I won't repeat what the Director Sampson said, but I will say that, we were behind for a long time, making sure that we make it up for it. This is the project that we know that we have accelerated as fast as we can, and so we're ready to roll, but we gotta have all of you give us some feedback. In the old days, it was unfortunate in the old days that, it took so long time to get here. But I'll tell you, without an organization that really listens to what the community wants and what the community says, and we know and we believe that you own us. So that's why we're here. We want to listen to what you got to say about it. We want to do this as soon as possible. With all your help, we will. So thanks you all for coming tonight. And please give us feedback. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. For today's presentation, two presenters will share information related to the draft DEIR and the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project. Please welcome our presenters, Caitlin McAlpine, who's an Associate Engineer with Valley Water, and Andrew Martin, Senior Environmental Planner. Pursuant, if members enter your questions in the Q&A box, or raise your hand, and we will unmute you after the presentation.
Everybody. Thanks, Mike, for the introduction. Again, my name is Caitlin McAlpine, and I'm here to kick us off for the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project about the draft environmental impact report.
Let me know. I'll move it to slide.
So here is agenda for this evening. I'll go over the project overview, and then I'll pass it off to Andrew, and he will talk about the draft environmental impact report summary, as well as how to make public comments on the So one of our project goals is to help reduce risk of flooding to homes and other infrastructure to Coyote Creek, equivalent to the event that happened in February of 2017. Here's our project schedule. You can see the green arrow showing where we are in the design phase of the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project. So here, taking a step back, is our overall project area, which is along 90 miles of Coyote Creek, starting at the upstream end or the southern end at Tully Road, through the city of San Jose, ending at Montague Expressway at the downstream end. The regions that are part of the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project are regions 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Next slide. So our project elements in the design are flood walls, passive barriers, berms, and flat gates. The pictures above on the left and right are showing various flood walls. On the left, you see a sheet pile type flood wall, and on the right is a concrete type of flood wall. Below on the left is an example of a berm, which is just a soil embankment that helps redirect flows. And then on the right is a picture of a passive barrier system, which is a type of flood wall that will rise flat and then rise up with the storm waters as they approach the structure. And then flat gates will be installed along storm drains to help prevent backflow up and out of the creek. So a little bit more about passive barriers. As I mentioned, it's a type of structure that will like that, as you can see in the above picture here. So it will essentially be hitting the ground, kind of day-to-day scenario. And then as the flood waters dry up, the passive barrier will deploy and rise up with the flood waters. As seen in the picture below, this yellow side of the passive barrier is where the water side would be in an active rain event. So to go into a little bit more detail on the design elements, here in project or in each floor, so down here on the bottom here is our legend. We have flood walls in the green color, passive barriers in the pink, berms in orange. We have a temporary sandbag berm in purple, and then berm will be installed flat plates with the red paint. So around Sharpot Avenue Bridge, we have flood walls on both the east and west side slopes, as well as the berm at the southern end. We will have passive barriers parallel with Sharpot Avenue, and then we'll be adding headwalls onto the Sharpot Avenue Bridge. And then a flat plate just north of the in each 5, we will be installing 2 new flat plates to the north of Ariasa Road. And then in each 6, we will be installing 2 new flat plates, one to the south of Mayberry Road and one north of Highway 101 on the east bank. So on the east bank of the creek, we will have a new flood wall from Mayberry Road into Highway 101 next to San Jose's Mayberry Service Yard. Another flood wall just to the south of Highway 101. A flood wall around the Kellogg facility, where Lower Silver Creek comes into drains into Coyote Creek. Another flood wall along Lower Silver Creek on the south end. Another flood wall next to the apartment complex, just south and upstream of where Lower Silver Creek drains into Coyote.
Gotcha.
So then moving to the west bank at Boston Park, we will have a flood wall along the perimeter of the park, where the homes back up to the park, and then a passive barrier across Jackson Street, which will then tie into a berm at the park here. We will also be including a flood wall around the utilities for the park to help protect them. And then on the south end of Boston Park, we have a flood wall around one of the buildings for the Empire Gardens Elementary School. Then at the southern end of each space, we have a flood wall behind the homes off of Roosevelt and 19th Street, right here. And then another flood wall behind the properties off St. John and 18th Street. Reach 7 on the east bank, we have a flood wall off of behind the homes on Brookwood Avenue. And then at Summer Older Park and the Older Elementary School, we have a system of passive barriers and flood walls. So we'll have passive barriers along William Street and the park improvements here, a flood wall behind the Olander Elementary School, and then passive barriers along the perimeter of the park, along Woodborough Drive, a flood wall in center here near the bathroom structure, and then on the West Bank, at William Street Park, we will have a flood wall along, William Street Park from the bridge, and then, past the barriers along William Street and 16th Street, along the perimeter of the park, and then a flood wall, at the southern end of the park, next to, the home on 16th Street, tying into, a flood wall from the first phase of our park. And Beach 8, we have a flood wall, off of 12th and Story behind the apartments here. A flood wall around the condominiums, just south of Kelly Park here. And a berm next to San Jose Water's facility, and a flood wall at the Rock Springs Park, as well as 2 blockades in this city. And then, one last flood wall off of Tully and Galveston next to the San Jose Water Company facility. And now I will pass it off to Andrew.
Ready? Can you hear me again? Thank you, Mark.
A little closer.
Closer?
There we go.
Sorry about that. Andrew Martin, I'm the lead environmental planner for the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project. And so we're here today to talk about the draft environmental report. Basically, the project we just described is a bush project. It's an purpose of the DEIR, that is in prepared, described by the CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. It really has 2 purposes: to inform the board and public the impacts from constructing and operating the project, and also measures that avoid and minimize environmental impacts from the project. Next slide. So the IR is broken down into different chapters and sections. The executive summary basically summarizes the project and also provides a breakdown on past implications for those to reduce or avoid impacts. There's also an introductory chapter, which is some background on the project. Project description, which is a full and detailed description of the project. Impact discussions, which evaluate impacts from a variety of different resource areas. Other statutory considerations chapter, which includes cumulative impact discussion. And chapter 5, which is evaluates alternatives to the proposed project. There's also some things which are technical documents that we prepare to support the analysis. So as you can see here, there are a variety of different research topics that were evaluated in the EIR. There are a few that were not evaluated, the original not least significant, so we were dismissed from the EIR in those 3 sections.
Active volume is going up and down and up.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll do my best. I'll hold it really close. Sorry about that. So the sections that were dismissed from early consideration were agriculture and forestry resources, mineral resources, population and housing, other services, and all that. Next slide, please. I have a busy slide here, so we'll try and move through it. Bear with me. So there were some resource areas that were where the EIR evaluated there were significant impacts. Those impacts were mitigated to less than significant using proposed mitigation measures. And these are the different resource topics listed here, where significant impacts occurred and mitigation proposed. So the biological resources, it was found that there was a potential to disturb special status of bats. And the proposed mitigation included a combination of surveys, routine habitat assessments, and modification to habitat and structures that are known or suspected to
part of Brucey Pass. Also, for tribal and cultural resources, as this project involves ground disturbance, there is the potential to disturb various cultural resources. So there are various proposed plans in place to mitigate for that potential impact, including worker and environmental awareness training, data recovery and treatment plans, and other mitigation to deal with the archaeological resources of core finds that are discovered during project construction. In the geology, soils, and seismicity chapter, also due to ground disturbance, there's a potential to disturb paleontological resources, particularly in areas where ground disturbance is low degree. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term paleontological, those are fossilized remains or impressions of plants and animals that have scientific value. And so the proposed mitigation for that is environmental awareness training for workers, construction monitoring, and recovery and curation protocols if a paleontological resource is found. For hazardous and hazardous materials, it was found that there was a potential to expose workers in the public to hazardous materials to accident and upset conditions during construction. The proposed mitigation for that is use of personal protective equipment by workers, particularly in lead impacted areas. So air, soil, and groundwater testing in areas where there's no contamination, and also proper disposal of hazardous waste. For noise and vibration, it was found that the project has the potential to create excessive noise. Ground-borne noise vibrations near residential and non-residential uses, and so the mitigation for that was to propose mitigation was to determine alternative equipment or methods to be used, and also preparation and implementation of vibration control plan. And finally, transportation and traffic. It was found that there was a potential to increase emergency response times, and also it could create conditions that would hinder emergency vehicle access. And the proposed mitigation for that was to prepare and implement traffic safety enhancement plan. Next slide. There was one impact was found to be significant and avoidable, and significant and avoidable for those who are not familiar with the term means that an impact remains significant even after all available feasible mitigation is used. So in one particular case, due to temporary increases in noise from construction that exceeded federal standards, it was found to be significant, or it did not reduce the impact for less than significant. Even after the mitigation is applied. And some of the mitigation that is proposed includes a noise coordinator, also alternative methods for use for impact reducing equipment, and some other mitigation measures used to reduce the impact. Temporary sound wall is another one. So despite having that mitigation in DEIR, the impacts for noise and vibration producers was still significantly before that. You can.
No, but they're going to be building one of these walls on 9 o'clock, so I want to know about the noise.
Okay, well, there'll be some time afterwards for questions. If you want to hold your questions or comments for them. Can you hear me okay, though?
Voice just keep going up and down. It's inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe that's like that. We'll try. Next slide. Okay. There are, in addition to the proposed project, the EIR evaluated alternatives to the project. So there were a variety of alternatives that were considered and discussed. Very early on during the project development phase, Valley Water looked at a variety of different alternatives alternatives that, use different flood risk reduction features, different reaches. And it was found that, you know, they didn't meet project alternatives, they were technically infeasible. Or, you know, for other reasons, they wouldn't achieve what the project was hoping to do. So maybe these early alternatives were considered reasons necessary to discuss the environmental value. There's also a project alternative. Valley Water is required through CEQA to evaluate no project alternative, and the no project alternative is pretty simple. It's no flood control. Nothing would be done. The conditions from future flooding, nothing would change. There would still be a possibility of the residents in this area may encounter flood conditions similar or worse to those in 2017. That's no project alternative. Another alternative involves elevating or acquiring specific properties. Those properties are along Woodbury Avenue, in Region 7, on the east side of Coyote Creek. This is really a very small part of the project. And it only involved elevating 3 properties in this area instead of constructing a flood wall. So it really only affect 1 flood wall, all of the flood walls that are being proposed for this project. And that's pretty much it for alternatives that are not in the next slide. So after the draft DEIR, actually the slides might be flipped. The way to go to the next slide, I think that's it. That's the one you want. Perfect. So this is the people processing schedule. We began back in November of last year by releasing a notice of preparation that we Valley Water was going to prepare an EIR. We had a SCOPE meeting in December. There was a 30-day SCOPE period which began in late November and ended in late December. And based on the comments we received, we incorporated those into the draft DEIR. The draft DEIR has just been released to public review. So we see the orange small down there, where we're at right now. Well, actually, we're in the green square above it. We're in the 45-day public review period. So the EIR was released on July 12th, and the 45-day review period goes until August 26th. And during that time, we will be collecting public comments. And after receiving comments, we will incorporate those into the final EIR. Whether we back it up, we will respond to those comments. And if necessary, we will incorporate those comments into the EIR. We are anticipating that the EIR will be released in December. There will be a public notice that is available. And then that same month, the board will await project approval. And if the project is approved and the EIR is certified, we file a notice of determination to the county clerk and the state clearinghouse. That's the end of the process. If we could back up to the previous slide. Final EIR. Perfect. So the final EIR basically contain all of the copies of comments received and Valley Water's specific responses to each of the comments received. And it will also show the changes to the draft EIR based on the comments in response to any that it receives. And so those comments will appear as either stricken out text or underlined text to show new information that's been added since the draft EIR. Next slide. Yeah, perfect. So your public input is valued and important. We want comments to be focused on EIR, so substantive comments focused on the SQL analysis. Comments may be given today using the speaker cards, or preferably be given in writing during the public review period. Next slide, please. Finally, public comment. As I mentioned earlier, the end of the comment period is August 26th. The comment period officially ends at 5 p.m. on August 26th. You can either submit comments by email or mail. If you submit them by email, just the address. We include your name and mailing address and body of email. And with, mention that these are EIR comments in the subject line. Finally, if you're going to be submitting something by mail, you can submit it to me. This address. That's it. Next slide. That's the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you all for your patience here. We are starting to hear from you. A reminder that the slides that we used in this presentation are on the project webpage already at valleywater.org under project updates, and then creeks, and then Coyote Creek. The other part is all the documents that Andrew referred to are also on that same page. It'll be more light. But we're happy to hear from you guys. You have questions online.
Yes. So we have two. The first question is, will we get a copy of the environmental impact study results? Do you have them now?
It touched on part of that, but we have a group of people and you're going to do that.
Okay. I will say this, the EIR includes results in, or the basically is analyzing the impacts of the project using research topics. So in addition to the analysis that they find in chapter 3, we'll also find an analysis of cumulative impacts in chapter 4. That's the project, cumulative impacts of the project when considered with other past, present, and reasonably foreseeable projects that are happening around this point. Also, there's an alternative analysis that evaluates the different alternatives and their impacts on different resource topics. And as I mentioned earlier, there's an appendix that includes technical documents where studies are done. For example, we have our hydrology appendix that includes hydraulic modeling for different scenarios. And so those studies are available in the appendix. Yeah, so we have a lot of information in there for people that are interested in finding out what we looked at and what the results of the various studies.
Thanks. I have one more question. What are the work hours?
If we're talking about construction work hours by the city of San Jose Municipal Code requires work hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekends. Weekends are special. So those will be the typical work hours.
If we had to start the noise at 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's when the construction has started on this stage of the project. So that's it is
And that,
big part.
is there any?
Let me come to you with this microphone. So that people
That's start at 7 in the morning. Is there
Don't-
anything that we can do to prevent them from starting at 7 in the morning with noise?
You know, generally, let's have Director Esmer, I believe, jump in.
We generally have construction public meetings, so we form some construction, the public meetings like this. Generally, you get feedback from the community with respect to the times and game. The construction company talking about, but they definitely also use it. And we put pressure on them to make sure that it is to the community. That's very important question, very important plus. And secondly, when you just mentioned, you had a question with respect to noise. You know, in the old days, it's all what we need. How do you want to do that? How do you have pressure? That's how I'm doing. We much less noise than we used to before.
I'm just saying, everything is fine, my property is a state property, and there's no way I'm gonna let them do that at 7 in the morning.
No, so as Director Esmer mentioned, and thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
This is the environmental process, so submitting that question in writing will derive a written response in the document so that you will get the answer But also, the contractor hasn't even been hired to do this work yet. So this is 2025 is
So
in,
you take notes.
this is being recorded.
It's absolutely.
Absolutely, but in order for it to be formally asked as a part of the environmental review process, so it's in writing, we would encourage you to submit this in an email or in written form, just very simple, on this card. And it will be added to the questions that have to be responded to before they can get permits to start construction. Did I say that right? Caitlin, project.
It's not just on my property then.
Well,
That's fine.
okay. Another question online?
Yeah. When are the mappers coming out?
Say that again.
When,
The surveyors, map.
We're transferring now. There you go.
when are the mappers coming out? Mappers?
Can we? Robert Ellen, Senior Engineer of Water. Can we clarify if we're talking about hand surveyors who state the wall alignment or easement, limits of easement area?
The people who put the stakes and maps out, what it'll look like on our specific property.
It'll depend, on the particular property. We will work with the owner of the property on a one-on-one basis, but it does depend on, we have multiple properties that we're working with, so we'll can discuss and.
Part of this project includes things such as in the park, in William Street Park or Bolander Park. Or there are some flood walls that would be in the backyards of private homes. And those folks you're referring to, Robert, that will be getting a one-on-one meeting. But I would, as a part of every question we get tonight, I would encourage you to submit that question in writing with your specific address so that the project team can respond officially in the environmental document.
And also, if I know, from the project website, anything on there. I think our contact information is on the project website, you can also find us an email to there.
Absolutely, and the comment cards have Andrew's address as well. Does that answer that question?
It does answer that question, but I did have another one come through.
One more than you got that one.
Okay, perfect. The timeline is still loose and based on the contractor. How much lead time notice will we get for action on our property?
Fantastic question. We will be gathering again, probably here in the Roosevelt Community Center and on Zoom, to go over the final environmental impact report, please, and then the pre-construction meeting. So construction targeted for for 2025, the summer of 2025. So there will be a meeting prior to that. Hopefully when the contractor has been selected, assuming all of this goes forward properly and we get our permits to do this work. So there are many steps before we know who to talk to. Caitlin has a more.
Thanks, I just wanted to add to that, once the contractor, is on board, we will have a construction schedule, we'll be able to have more, defined timeframe, for any contractor building bridge sections, at what time during that range construction.
Great point, Caitlin. And one of those areas is the William Street Park, where park in the park occurs. So I think the project team has definitely heard through our earlier meetings how we want to be very sensitive to that and not impact park in the park if we can.
I think add a little bit more to that. So it is one of our objectives to help coordinate with ongoing events within the community. And so we will work with our contractor to accommodate various events. If that is possible with the schedule of work for the contractor to complete the various, features as well as the final materials.
Questions in the audience, so let's come out here with the microphone.
Actually, quick, I should find for Andrew. Regard to the, silent cultural and ability. Especially is the Valley Water itself, the ability, they do general verify. Long, the second, you got, that question is, there's Valley Water staff knowledge, but the sea excavations, it's certainly.
Good question. So, in answer to your question, so answer to the first question, Valley Water, like every public agency, is required by Assembly Bill 52 to reach out to tribes that put themselves on the list and when you notify about projects that are happening in their area. And we did do that. We released the NRP, made sure the tribes have listed themselves, but also tribes that.
Notice preparation.
Is that?
Notice
Okay.
preparation.
Notice of population. We also put in other tribes that are not listed, but who were active in the so we did make an effort to reach out to people. During these days, we also sent out mailers and other notifications to tribal members who were on our notice of preparation here. So we kept them informed throughout this process.
Your staff archaeologists who receive the.
We don't want to not have staff archaeologists. What I noticed that the mitigation numbers require an archaeologist to be consultant if there's a person who's coming from. So, in that particular case, my guess is that the contractor that we have archaeologists on hand, or we would have a contract archaeologist on hand to step into that if that happened. But we don't have any staff archaeologists. That answers your question.
That's a good question over here.
Yeah, so, on the charts and on the legend, I saw areas where it says, it's a solid wall, and there's 3 kinds of solid walls. Did I miss it, that they legend differentiates between them? Because I kind of like to know if we're gonna have, a level one, or the other one, please,
No, the legend did not differentiate between sheet pile or concrete flood wall, but the, sheet pile flood walls will have a concrete facing, next to them, on them, so we will have, we won't be able to have, the sheet pile.
So, yeah, I think that's clear, but you can't. From above the ground, you probably can't tell the difference between the two because of the concrete architectural treatment on there.
My house is 19.5 to 20.5 feet from the probationary wall of my hut. So I am directly involved in replacing the valve. More so than most, plus I have 2 large shoes overhang the wall. So I don't know if you guys would ever want to remove those shoes and drastically improve those shoes. $8 million as soon as possible. The other thing is, I worked with sewage here for 30 years. I was out there during the flood. I was here for the flood in 1997 at my house in Coyote, Court. And I learned a lot at that time. So when you guys figured out what you were going to do, did you take into account the Anderson Dam when you were figuring out what you had to do to mitigate the flooding back in 2017? Because if they would have had the correct still now, so they could have released the flood waters, to release the waters sooner and slower rate, that would have to reduce the flooding along the Coyote Creek significantly. So now we're gonna have a dam, and this 6 foot or 8 foot or whatever it is, the valve is gonna control the flow for the spillway. Why do you need to do as much? Do you still need to do as much mitigation along the creek as you're planning to do now? Because I suspect that you were planning this mitigation before the Anderson Dam went to their before they completed their plans, what they were gonna have to do up there.
I'll take the easy first question. About the trees. Definitely, we'll be in contact, we'll talk and we can see which specific trees you're talking about. If already, because we can definitely let you know on that. And then for the harder question.
I can just start and, similar to results right on, add in, but so part of, our design efforts for the Coyote flood protection is the first phase of the project, was to work with the Anderson Dam, and make sure that we're taking into account the flows from Anderson Dam, and what they're doing with the Anderson Dam tunnel project, and then also the work that they're going to be doing for the Anderson Dam side of the project. Did that answer your question?
And it took into account what the flow will be.
Yes.
Similar soil,
Exactly.
if that now works. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions in the room? Up in the front, there you go. We bring you the microphone, so. Okay. Right there.
The flood that there is going to be mitigate. Is that roughly 2,070 feet?
Thanks. Yes, so the project objective is to help protect against a similar event from February 2017 event, which is approximately a 20-year storm event. So it is
It's a 100-year storm event. But then in 2001, there was another one. 2001, I mean, I live on Coyote Creek, and you have the big El Nino. We had a 5 foot deep lake in our meadow, and they told us that was a 100-year flood. And then in 2017, we had an 8 foot lake in our meadow. And I'm concerned about the communication because we knew 2018, 2017 that there was going to be a flood, and we moved everything of ours up to higher ground. But nobody told all those people who got flooded out of their homes, relay. So I'm just wondering what the communication is going to be with all of this, and if it's going to be any improved over what happened in 2017, because that was horrific.
right.
So in the office of communication, I've been there 5 years, but I do know that we now do an annual exercise with the city of San Jose to prepare on how to, and our emergency operations center during rain events are very closely coordinated so that we've learned from the 2017 event because the city has the fire department and the first responders. So a lot of their work is to be the one that notifies folks using a lot of the materials and information, the flow gauges that we have on our creeks and reservoirs. So you were absolutely right. There's definitely a need for better coordination than there was in 2017. And we do annual exercises and our EOCs, with Zoom, we meet with them during the rainstorms. As it relates to the flow levels, the flood levels from 97 and 2017, the consensus from the water folks I've heard is that that's a 20-year flood event, was 2017. And so the 100-year flood is a much more, like, imagine many times more water than was in 2017. So this project is designed to accommodate the 2017, not accommodate, to protect from a 2017 flood rather than a 100-year flood.
Why does all the
Bring the microphone over because otherwise
Do you want
nobody
me to
else
do
can hear you.
climate, disasters that are happening all over the world, due to climate change, why are we going for 2017 when it looks like things are getting worse and worse and worse? Why you stop at that level?
Yeah. So my comments have more than.
Other than second game revenue, the past, I think probably 2005 or 2010, Army Corps kind of looked into it, provide that area preparation for the entire community. They worked on it for several years and have concluded that it's not a feasible project. It is very benefit to the station. We bring in how much return they're getting, how much property they're protecting. They concluded that they have this on. So that's when the value of your kind of the initiative, the declaration, what is the more immediate preparation for one was kind of concluded that at least we will try to take the immediate preparation.
And just to add to that, the cost of a 100-year flood protection is dramatically higher. And so in order to pay for that, it would probably be cheaper, didn't say it this way, but you would be buying up the homes along both sides of the creek that the city allowed to be built over the many hundreds, dozens of years. Very intrusive project to provide that level of flood protection, and or digging up entire streets for box culverts. So you know the big on Guadalupe River, the big inlet right at the freeway overpass of 87 and 280. That provides 100-year flood protection to downtown San Jose. The funding for that project was started and was delayed by the Korean War. That's how long it took to get that built. So the board made the decision to go forward with 20-year flood protection, which will allow many of the residents to be able to remain in their homes and protect those properties from flooding. So I'm happy to go really in depth on this with you if you'd like, but are there any other questions before we go back on that? We've got one in the back of the room. All the way back. Oh.
Thank you.
Move this one. Move this one.
So one of the key elements of the scope of lots of park and waste park is the installation of this passive barriers, which are going to be on property not by the water district, they don't see it's San Jose. We've heard a lot about peak plans and process, and so you can use.
Yeah, hold it against your chip.
Okay, thank you. So the thing is, we have two project parks owned by the city of San Jose, not the water district. They provide infrastructure into those parks. What's being done to part of your DEIR to study long-term maintenance and whatever is needed to make sure that those things survive, so they're functioning when they're needed. And who's going to take care of the parks? Is it going to be the water district for easements, or is it going to be shifted to the city of San Jose?
I can take that. So we do meet with CS and other public hearing staff, parks, recreation and neighborhood services that pretty much every week. We have been talking to them. Pretty much they are part of who wants it, it's very often we end up wanting all this record anyways. We have to do it, we've done, each kind of based on our responsibility side. What the city responsibility side, after about this. So, pretty much, whatever the building, we will get responsible for maintaining them. And rest of the problem, as you do the problem, so we get it, so.
Yes, DEIR does, we did evaluate construction. So things like level maintenance, asset variance, statute.
Thank you for that thoughtful question. We have another one in the room. Oh, sure. One more.
I don't think
No, nobody online can hear you if you don't. You'll be on the recording.
This is like that, he was doing, free. I know the sub project is supposed to, mitigate flooding. And, there's all these steps that go on the street right now to mitigate flooding of homes and businesses and homes and so on. And part of that, project I noticed is, cleaning up the water of Coyote Creek. And I'm wondering what steps or ongoing steps are being done to clean up the hazardous waste and refuse in Coyote Creek, along with the dead trees and vegetation that really clog up the whole creek for so long. I wonder what steps are being taken to deal with that.
So to kind of talk about some of the cleanups on the creek and some of the debris, on top of partnering with the city of San Jose Parks group, we also partner with the city of San Jose for their Unify Exchange, sorry, excuse me for creating their name. But we're partnering with them to help with cleaning up the creeks, the debris, and cleaning up project area before construction begins. So we have a group, we are getting renewing a group agreement with them to help with cleaning up the project area before construction begins and during construction.
Well, this is gonna be ongoing because stuff continues to die and grow in the creek.
It's part of that, what's going to be done about the homeless population, because that's a part of the problem.
Great question, about the unhoused on the creeks. And our board is holding a summit on October 11th to deal with this very topic, to do a water quality and environment as it relates to our creeks. Valley Water only owns 290 miles of the 870 miles of creeks and waterways in this county, but still removes over 100 tons of debris and more and more. And so we're spending an inordinate amount of money. So the board is going to consider how to address that. And there's some big news out of the governor's office today about this. So this is very timely. So that's probably more of a macro issue. This is the meeting to talk about the construction of the flood protection. And so again, I want to remind everyone who's had these questions, submit them in writing and they'll be considered as a part of the permit review for this project. So we're here to answer any questions you have, but we want to just remind you to submit them in writing so that they're responded to or considered as a part of the process. We've got a few more minutes before we run out of time today. Did I cover that? Any other questions in the room or on Zoom, Gianna? We're happy to stay a few minutes. They said we got to be out by 8. We're really glad they kept the air conditioner on so strong today. And so, with that, I see one more in the room. Yes, sir. Let me bring this to you.
Speaking of, homeless or unhoused, I think that there's a plan with the city, I'm not sure of all the details, but to put permanent camping in a few places along the creek, like in Watson Park. So they would be washed out, according to what I saw.
I don't know any part of anything. Watson's Park.
I'm not familiar with any, houses.
It's higher, it's called it's higher.
Oh, okay.
So there are a number of locations throughout the city that Valley Water is working with this, the city on. One of them is on the Upper Guadalupe near Blossom Hill, not far from our campus. There's a site where we're working to build some temporary housing. Channel, right behind the Bass Pro Shops over there. We kind of oriented that one. And so there are proposals to build a few of these around town. And so we're not necessarily the project experts on that aspect of Valley Water, but if we've acquired property that's near a creek, it's generally intended to be part of a widening or a flood protection project. So it likely wouldn't get a permit to be built on today because it's in the floodplain. But we sometimes acquire these things and they take decades to fully acquire properties from willing sellers, usually, almost always. And so we land bank some of these. And so that's the Willow and the Long is the one you're probably familiar with, the Alma off ramp to Highway 87. So the Water District has acquired some of those many years ago and are waiting so that we can then widen Guadalupe River. And that would provide 100-year flood protection. So to get to the 100-year, it takes big wide channel. And so that's part of the work that goes into that. Here's the final question. Let me bring this over to you.
I want to know if these walls are going to be highways for homeless people to travel, because right now, I live right off of William Street, and there are fences, and they cut fences down, and they make trails, and now all of a sudden there are going to be easy passageways, and I wonder what's going to prevent that from becoming a problem.
Are we incorporating that kind of aspect into the design?
So, yes, I mean, the flood walls, we will operate with security fencing on top of them if, they're too short, they're below 6 feet, 70 feet, as well, so that they're not just access ways, into the creek. That's definitely our consideration.
During construction on this phase, the other phase, the phase that's under construction now, there is security fencing and security guards that are on a rotating schedule to monitor and keep an eye on things and respond on all the police when they see. I think that's not what we have. So I would anticipate in the next phase that would be something that we continue. But again, that's a question. If you ask it in the formal process, we get a formal answer. And with that, anything else on Zoom, Gianna?
No.
Okay, with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming, joining us on Zoom, and we're happy to answer a few questions. We've got some display boards on the side here, and there's some coffee and cookies in the back, and cold water. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.